Good morning, friends, and it is great to be here. Great to be here on another day on the deck, kind of sitting down here, getting out of the sunshine. I got short sleeves on. I've done my best today to watch as little coverage of the election as is humanly possible. I'm trying to be not anxious and really trusting in God. God got my opinions, but so do you. So do you. And I'm excited just to share a few things with you today on a little bit of a devotional. And it kind of starts out with a little bit of a story that was part of my growing up. I had the opportunity to grow up with five boys in the family and one girl, one sister. So I had four brothers and a sister, and we had an amazing time. But I can only imagine now what it was like for my parents. I imagine they were shot sometimes, exhausted. Five boys, I mean, all of us active and going at different sports and different things. Well, part of this thing that my parents did every year that I really appreciated was I would go to Fairfax, Minnesota, to kind of like where my family originated from and grew up in. I was sent out to the farm, to my uncle's farm and to my grandma's house to kind of work in the summer. I think my parents were, one, trying to get me out of their hair a little bit, get a little bit more rest, and two, they were hoping that I could learn how to work hard and learn some things from some of our other relatives, particularly my Uncle Dwayne, who my whole life had taken an amazing interest in me. You know, certainly after his brother, my dad, died when I was just a young kid. I think he made a commitment to making sure that I had a little attention paid to me. And so I get this opportunity to go out to Fairfax. And I remember one of the chores that we would do some of the years there is we would go out and we would walk the soybeans. And that's just like what it sounds, these gigantic soybean rows after rows in the fields. And a group of us, predominantly my cousins and myself and some other kids, some other youngsters, we would go out and we would walk the rows. We'd have a machete in one hand, sometimes we'd have a hoe, and we would take down the milkweed and these invasive plants called cockleburs. And we'd pull them out, we'd be yanking them out. And you can imagine what this was like in June or July, just walking in the beating down sun, just pulling weeds. And again, it's one thing to do that for an hour. It's another thing to do that for 4 or 5 or 6 hours. Just walking down the fields, just sweating and getting sunburned, and your hands getting tired and just chopping, and probably chopping yourself once or twice as well as we're going. It was kind of fun because the people I was with, my cousin Jenny and my cousin John and Karen, and we had fun. We had fun doing it, but it was a lot of work. And I think it started out fun, and the longer we went, the more work it became. But I remember the one thing that would always keep me going is I would look off in the horizon, down the corner of the field, down away towards the farmhouse, and just around a certain time of each day, I would see a car pull out from there and a cloud of dust coming up behind it, and the car would come out and pull over down on the field near us. And it was what I was hoping it was going to be. It was refreshments. Sometimes it was just something to drink and some cookies or something. A lot of times it was a whole lunch. And it didn't matter what it was. It could have been cardboard. And it was the best tasting thing that I had ever eaten because I was so famished and I wanted to rest so bad. There's something about that reward. There's something about anticipating that food that kept me going down the rows, that kept me going back and forth. And I appreciate that. I appreciated learning that. Today's story from the book of Joshua, in fact, Joshua 24, verses 1 through 3 and 14 through 25. The story from Joshua is this. Joshua is now an old man. He has led the Israelites. He took over from Moses. He led the Israelites into the promised land. And for a number of years, They had fought group after group after people, and God had given them victory over each of these groups. No matter how outnumbered they were, no matter how how afraid they were, God gave them victory after victory after victory, and they focused on the work of God. They focused on this work of securing the land. Once the land was conquered, then Joshua took and divided the land up by the 12 tribes of Israel, gave each of the tribes a section of land, and the people would then go to their land and they would live. And Joshua gave them a warning. He said, when you go back to this land, be careful of the people that live there. Be careful of the gods that they serve. Do not let their ways and their gods and their things become your things, because you will stray from God and God's protection will no longer be with you. This is the Old Testament. That it will no longer be with you. You see, he reminded them of how hard it was to get to where they were, how Joseph and Moses and the desert and all of the things that they had gone through, the battles they had fought in the land in the promised land. He reminded them of all the difficulties. And he seemed to say, in these times of hardship and difficulty, it was pretty easy to focus on God. But once you get your land, be careful, because you're going to suddenly have the opportunity to follow other gods. Super interesting story. And Joshua says, I don't know about you, but as for me and my family, we will serve God. It's a little bit like that for us. When we're working in the field, when we're working hard, knowing that there's reward down the line, we keep focused and we keep working. Once that reward comes, sometimes we get a little bit lazy. I mean, sometimes when I was in the field and we ate lunch, I didn't want to go back to work. I just wanted to talk. I wanted to mess around. I want to go to the pool in Fairfax. I want to go to town. And that's the way it is for us. In times of hardship and difficulty, I think most Christians find it easier to follow God because we have to depend on him each and every day to get by. But when things start working out, we have the tendency to go and to follow other desires. Other things start to call us. Other things start to catch our attention. We start to forget about God because it's not significant, it's not important, we don't need anything right now. We're doing fine on our own. And that's what Joshua says. He says, this is when you get yourself in trouble. You start down a wrong road. In Psalms 78, verses 1 through 3, and in 1 Thessalonians 4, 13 through 18, we are given some things that we need to do as believers to stay sharp, to continue to focus on our God, on Jesus. And these things are simple. The things you've heard before. In Psalm 78, it talks about we are called to be learners. We're called to listen to the word, to hear the word, to study the word. We are called to be people that keep learning more and more and more about God. And my challenge to you is to ask yourself the question, do I think I know it all? Or am I a learner? My encouragement to you is be a learner. Keep growing. A second thing, it says that we are called to be teachers. When we have experienced God, when we have gone through difficult times, and those of you that are over the age of 10, you've experienced hard times and God's deliverance from those hard times. We need to teach about those experiences to other people. Through teaching, you know how they always say, when you teach, you really learn it yourself. So you need to be a learner. You need to give an opportunity to teach. Is there someone in your life that you're sharing your God experiences with? And then lastly, we are called to be encouragers. We are called to be encouragers. When we see others who have come from the battlefield, they need our encouragement to stay focused and to stay in the right area. I don't know about you, but it seems like maybe we're slowly coming out of a difficult period of time. We got a long way to go with this pandemic. I know it's bad now, but maybe a vaccine is coming up. Maybe some turning points will come. This election seems like a battlefield, but maybe somehow we're going to come through this. And this is the time you have to be careful. This is the time you have to make a decision as to what gods you are going to follow. In the book of Matthew, there is a parable, talks about 10 bridesmaids, and these bridesmaids, apparently this wedding is happening somewhere down the way, and these bridesmaids have come to the hall to honor the couple as they come in, the bridal party as they come, and they've got these lamps that are fueled by oil, and it says five of the bridesmaids had enough oil, and 5 of the bridesmaids didn't have enough oil. Well, I want to focus on those 5 that didn't have enough oil, because what happened was they didn't have enough oil. They knew it, but they went anyway, and they were waiting for the bridal party to come. They saw the bridal party come, and they said, shoot, we don't have enough oil. We better run into town. So they ran into town to get some oil, take care of things they needed to take care of. They came back, and the bridal party had passed. The gates to the banquet hall were closed, and they were locked out. These bridesmaids weren't prepared, and they went off pursuing their own desires, and they came back and they were left out. I want you to know something. There are people that believe that they can love God, that they can pursue their own things, they can kind of put that on hold, they can kind of leave, go another direction, and come back. The Bible warns us that oftentimes when you go to do something else or you forsake God with the thought of maybe I'll come back later, things can happen and you sometimes never, ever get back. Something to think about in this time period. My encouragement to you is know that God is in control. Know that God has a reward out there for you that is so amazing. And he has a reward for you daily. He has people that he's going to bring into your life. He gives us opportunities. But he says to us, you need to make a decision. Who are you going to follow? Are you going to continue to learn? Are you going to teach others like I need you to do? Are you going to be encouragers of others? Or are you going to pursue your own interests when things calm down and maybe never come back? My prayer is that you and your household will serve God, because that's what I want. My desire is, and that's about my household. I commit my household to following God. Have a great week. God bless, and talk to you next week.